All right. So let's look at the functions of managers. It is very, very important that we understand the functions of managers. Now, by definition, management is about changing behavior of people and making things happen, right? It is about developing people, working with people, reaching objectives, and achieving the results. So the success or the failure of management is attributed to the manager. The manager and management may be defined now as a process of achieving organizational objectives within a changing environment by balancing efficiency, effectiveness, and equity, obtaining the most from limited resources, and working with and through people. That is what management is all about. Different from leadership. Leadership is about influencing others towards a certain goal, towards a set goal. So when you are influencing people that they can head towards a set goal, or that you may achieve the goal that has been set, that is just the leadership. The ability to influence people is leadership. But management, it is more than that, right? It is the process of achieving organizational objectives within a changing environment. You balance between efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. You obtain the most from the limited resources, and you try to work with the people, and you work through the people. That is what management is all about. You know, the following are some of the common activities of management. So we can classify the activities into the 6 categories. And these would include, number one, the technical activities that hinge around production, manufacturing, and adoption. Then we can also have the other category of commercial. This includes buying, selling, exchange, and market information. Financial category, where we obtain capital and we make optimum use of the available funds. The security category is where we safeguard the property and the persons. And accounting category is where we get the information on the economic position, the stock taking, balancing, drawing the statements of financial positions, the statements of comprehensive income, drawing up the statistics, collecting data and analyzing data so that you can make informed decision. And the last category of the activities of management is a managerial, right? So now the managerial activities are divided into 5 elements of management. Those hinge around planning, organizing, coordinating, leading, and controlling. So the management activities are divided into the 5 categories or 5 elements hinging around planning, organizing, coordinating, leading, and controlling. Now, these managerial activities are discussed below in detail, and we can pick up one. Let's start with one. Let's start with planning, right? So in managerial function, planning becomes very, very crucial, and it is usually a starting point at all the time. You cannot just start up a project, start up a business, start up any activity without planning. So planning is very, very important, and usually it is to be the first step, all right? So by planning, you can define it just as trying to see the foreseeing or examining of the future, deciding what needs to be achieved, and developing a plan of action, which is a strategy. So planning is about trying to foresee the future, trying to examine the future, trying to decide what needs to be achieved, and developing the strategies, whereas the strategies are just the action plans. Those action plans that you can write down that you may use for you to achieve the set goal. Now, when you are planning, you may not manage to plan alone. So oftentimes you need to involve main and key players in the organizations to ensure that the plan is owned, or to ensure the ownership of the plan. You have to engage others as you plan, you brainstorm, because the idea or the need of working together with others is very, very important, and it is so useful. It can really help you to make sound and dependable decisions. That can be done if you bring the heads together. Organizing is another element of managerial or management, okay? Now, organizing involves the analysis of activities, identifying the decisions and relationships that are required in the organization, trying to classify and dividing the work, creating the organizational structure, choosing the staff to implement management strategies, among others. Now, those are some of the things that are included, or activities that are included in organizing, right? It's about classifying, dividing the work, creating the organizational structure, selecting the staff or choosing the staff so that you can implement the management strategies. That is what organizing is all about. It is also a very, very essential element in management. Coordinating. Now, when I will give you an assignment to ask you to evaluate and deeply criticize these functions of management or the categories, you should be able to come out clearly, just as you will be as expected at that time. What about coordinating? Now, coordinating involves the unifying and harmonization of all activities and effort of the organization. That is to facilitate the work and success. So it does involve balancing and maintaining the team by ensuring a suitable division of work and seeing that the tasks are performed in the harmony and not in conflict. That is what coordinating is all about. It does not just end on coordinating, it also includes the leading. This is where leadership comes in. It's also an element of management. Now, leading is just the creation of an organizational climate in which people work willingly and effectively, thus inspiring morale among employees. So you have to inspire the morale among the employees, encouraging people so that they can manage to work towards the set goal. It's very essential that the management or managers develop the leadership skills, because the leadership skills are so important for you to achieve the goals that you can set always as an organization. If you're unable to control the people, you are unable to lead the people, you are unable to influence them towards a set goal as a manager, then it can be something that is very difficult for you to achieve the goals that you set. So it is one of the critical things that you have to do, have to learn the art also of motivation, motivate the workers, motivate the employees, motivate the juniors to move towards the set goal. Management also includes controlling. Now, you have planned, you have organized, you have coordinated the various work processes. It is very, very important again to evaluate, all right, all those undertakings. You need to evaluate those undertakings against the set standard. Now, the comparison between the set standard and the activities that you are doing right now is what controlling is all about. Ensuring that there are no deviations between the set standard and the activities that you're doing right now. You have to check if the activities that you're doing, they are coherent to the strategy, which is actually an action plan. So controlling as a manager, when you're controlling, it means you're trying to weigh, checking, monitoring and evaluating time again and again between the set standard and the strategy. That is very, very important. Now, there are some of the key skills that the management is supposed to have, or the managers are supposed to have. The following are some of the common skills and the roles that a manager is supposed to perform and have. Okay. Now, the manager is supposed to have the following skills, and the managerial skills are divided into the following categories. They are what we call the technical or competence skills. Now, for you to be an effective manager, you are supposed to have these skills: the technical skills, the technical skills that we also call the competence skills. They are very, very necessary, and you actually need them. Now, so with technical skills, these relate to the application of the specific knowledge, the methods, the techniques, and the skills to implement the various tasks. Okay, the type of this skill is very important for those at advisory levels. Okay, those that are responsible for day-to-day operations. For example, the assistant accountants, the human resources officers, the sales managers, the workshop foreman, among others. Those people need the competence skills, the technical skills, the know-how of how to do the task. That is very, very important. The other skills that we have are called the human or social skills, the social and human skills, or the people skills. They are interpersonal relationships, in working with and through other people, and exercise of judgment. You need to have that skill. So as a manager, you are supposed to have an excellent skill in dealing and handling people. You will not be the kind of the manager that does not know how to handle people. Emotional intelligence is also one of the skills that you should cultivate and develop for you to be a powerful and effective manager. You need emotional intelligence. You should be able to understand that human beings are not objects. Okay, they have emotions, they have the needs. Okay, they just have got a lot of things that that borders around the human life. Now, it's very important for you as a manager to understand that human beings are not the same. They are different. They are the people of different temperaments. They are the people of, personalities. Okay. The idea, or maybe the knowledge of, let me say, the knowledge of personalities, temperaments, and emotional about a little bit of psychology again should be also included here as you try to manage people very well. That is about social and human skills. The conceptual skills, they hinge around the ability of a manager, okay, to view the complexities of the operations of the organization as a whole, including those external factors. So you should be able, as a manager, to see beyond. You should have the ability to see beyond the common eye, right? Where a common eye can see, at least you should be able to see beyond. As a manager, we want you to be able to perceive things. You need to read and think beyond the obvious. That is the meaning or the idea behind conceptual skills. These can only be developed by continuous learning and continuous practicing. Now, those are some of the skills of the manager. the manager also has the roles, okay? Now, the roles of a manager, they are summarized into the 14, and the 14 are some of the roles of the manager here. Number one, you can make the initials of this because you can even write down an essay of the 14 roles of a manager. The first role is the figurehead role, right? The figurehead role. These are the interpersonal roles, okay? The interpersonal roles, which are basically hinging around the relationships with other people arising from the major status and authority. The first role is the figurehead role. This is actually the most basic and simple managerial role, okay? Now, the manager is actually a symbol and a representative of the organization in matters of formality, ceremonial nature, and signing of the document. So when it comes to the time or the point where the documents of an organization need to be signed, then it is the manager who has the responsibility to go and sign those documents. You are there to speak, to stand for the organization in the matters of formality. You are there to put the seals in most of the documents, okay? To put the seal, to put the, you call it the date stamp, that's called the seal, yeah, in most of the documents. Leadership role is one of the significant role, and it does permit all activities of a manager, okay? So for example, a manager is given the responsibility to serve as a leader at the same time. So as a manager, you will not say leaders are others. You also need the leadership skills because you play the leader role, okay? Now, due to the formal authority that is vested in you as a manager, there is the responsibility of staffing, that is getting people, the members of the staff, employing people, it's your responsibility. You have the responsibility to motivate and to guide the employees. That is one of the roles that you have as a manager. The liaison role, it involves the relationship that the manager develops within and outside the organization. So you create a linkage between the organization and the environment in which the organization is. So you play that role to create the relationship between you, the organization, and the environment around. It's the duty actually of the manager to ensure that they create and develop policy that will allow the organization to have a very good and sound relationship between themselves and the external environment or the environment around them. There are also the other ones that we call the information roles. These are the information roles. The information roles, they relate to the sources and communication of information that arises from the manager's interpersonal roles. So for the informational roles, number one, you have the monitor role as a manager. Now, with this role, you identify, a manager is identified, okay, in seeking, receiving the information, right? The information will enable the manager to develop an understanding of the working of the organization and its environment. You will receive and you will look for the information as a manager. That is called the monitor role. It's your role as a manager. The disseminator role is also part of the roles that you have, the information roles that you have, you as a manager. Now, when you are a disseminator as a manager, when you're playing that role, it involves you, the manager, transmitting the external information through the liaison role into the organization. That is the external information. And the internal information through the leader role between the subordinates, between the juniors, and between the lower levels of management. And now, which this information may be factual or value judgment. Okay. So when it comes to the issue of disseminator, you have two roles that you combat together. The liaison role is about disseminating the information between you, the organization, and the external environment. Then the leader role is about disseminating the information within the organization. Under the same information roles, you have the spokesperson or the spokesman role. Now, the spokesman role involves the manager as a formal authority in transmitting information to the people outside the unit. For example, such as the board of directors, other superiors, or the general public. You are the spokesperson of the organization as a manager. When the manager is supposed maybe to address the public, the management or the organization wants to address the board of directors, it is the duty of the manager to go and speak on behalf of the organization. The last set of the roles are called the decisional roles. Now, with the decisional roles, they involve you making the strategic organization decisions on the basis of the manager's status or on the basis of your status and authority, and access the information. Number one, you have the entrepreneurial role. Now, with the entrepreneurial role, okay, you, the manager, have the function to initiate and plan controlled change through exploiting opportunities, solving problems, and taking actions to improve the existing situation. It is for you to seek and look for the opportunities, okay, those viable projects that the business can carry out so that you can, efficiently use the resources of the business or of the organization. Look for those opportunities where you can invest for the money. You can invest the money as the business. It is the duty actually of, or the role of the manager to ensure that such opportunities are exploited. It is also the role of the manager to handle the disturbance in what is known as the disturbance handler role. Okay. In here, as a manager, you are reacting to the involuntary situation and unpredictable events. There are those events that you can't plan for. They just happen abruptly, randomly. So as a manager, you should be able to handle such situations. Okay, it's your duty, not when everyone else now is wondering what will happen next. You should not join in the wondering. You have to look for the solution to the problem. You handle the disturbance, you handle such situations because you are the manager. You are the resource allocator. As a manager, you have to allocate the resources. Now, with this role, you as a manager, okay, using especially the formal authority vested in you, you'll have to decide where effort will be expended, and you will have to make choices on the allocation of the resources, such as money. How are we going to allocate the money? How are we going to allocate the time? How are we going to allocate the material? And how are you going to allocate the human resource or staff? So you're talking about the financial resources, time also as a resource, material and human resource as a staff, as a part of the resources. You will decide, okay, those important and highly productive ventures upon which you can expend the resources. You have the role as a negotiator of the business, and you have to have a little bit of the skills around the negotiation, okay, as a manager. So as a manager, you should be able to participate in the negotiation activities with other individuals or the organization, such as the trade unions, the suppliers, and the customers. You have to negotiate with them. You should develop the spirit or the ability, the skill of negotiation. Got a question?